Hello, and here we are with a very important lecture. It's about conditionals. And we're progressing with our program now, where we covered these 4 lines. Now we're stepping with all this block of code in here. And that what remains is this function. So in this lecture, we're going to cover this. All these lines here are part of a Python conditional block. And a Python conditional block, what it does is it checks if a condition is true. This is a condition. And if the condition is true, it executes something. Otherwise, so if the condition is not true, it executes something else. So either these lines will be executed or these. It cannot happen that you get both these and this executed. So either this or this. What are we checking in our example? Well, we are checking the pin code submitted by the user via this function here. Let's say the user submits 1, 2, 3, 4. So we check if 1, 2, 3, 4 is in the values of the pins dictionary. So pins.values will give you this object, which is a special object. It's like a list. It's not exactly a list, but it behaves like a list. So it has several items, and it's like a sub components of the dictionary object. And so basically this line here is like doing let's say if the user submits 1, 2, 3, 4, you say pin in pins values and you get true. So this pin is in the pins.values. If the pin was something different, you'd get false. So in other words, when this evaluates to true, these lines are executed. When this here evaluates to false, these lines are executed. I can show you this with another example. So if true, print yes, else print no, and you get yes, because true is basically always true. So true is always true. This is a bit difficult to understand in the beginning, but if you don't understand it, you can try this other thing. So if 2 is greater than 1, print yes, else print no. Sorry. And so you see that you got yes, because 2 actually is greater than 1, and this expression is equal to true. So it's the same. Doing 2 greater than 1 is exactly the same as doing true. And that's the idea. Now, something you should understand here is that we use these 4 spaces here. Let me clear this and try again. So when you do, let's say if 1 is equal to 1, and you use the colon, that's the syntax, and then when you go down here, you'd use 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. And then you write the action that you want to perform, like printing something out, maybe. And else has to be in the same indentation level with if. And use the colon, 4 spaces, print no, like that. And you can also use 1 space if you like. So it has to be at least one space under if. But it's recommended to use 4 spaces because this way the code is more readable. So it is more distinguishable that the print function, this actually is the action that is part of this conditional. And actually indentation is something special to Python, because other programming languages, they would use some characters to denote the ends of a line and to denote that the next line is dependent on the previous line. But in Python, you do this indentation. So let me exit this and execute basics.py. So our program, flat floor street 18, enter your pin 1234. So what happens at this point is, once you enter the pin, this number 1234 will be stored in the pin variable. So at this point, the script is at this point now, and it goes to the next line, because I told you that Python executes a script line by line from top to bottom. It goes to the next line and it reads all these lines, but when you have this def keyword, nothing happens. So this is a custom function that we'll cover later. But custom functions, when you define a function, you just define the function, you just define the blueprints, but you don't execute anything. Later you'll see that how we can execute this function, but for now Python just records these lines in the memory, but it doesn't do anything. It's like defining the code for the print function, so defining what the print function can do. So it accesses a command line and it sends some data into the computer command line. You could write those lines in here under the def keyword, but that would be just the definition of a print function. You are not calling the print function yet. Well, the print function is defined in some other files that you have installed in your computer, in this case in this Linux servers, and so the definition of the print function is there in the installed files, but it could have also been in here. So Python skips this, and then it goes to the conditional, and it checks if pin, which is 1234 at this point. So if 1234 in the values, in these values, so in is an operator which checks if a value is contained inside a sequence, such as this one in here. So a sequence can be values of a dictionary, can be a list, and so on. And in this case, 1234 is in the values, therefore these two lines will be executed. And so this line is executed now. Fruit, input, enter fruit. And as you know, the input function suspends the program again. So we have another input function in here, and we are being asked to enter a fruit. Now if we enter the fruit, like orange, we get that fruit is in the list. Why do we get that? Well, that's because this line was executed. And what this line does is, now this line is calling this function to be executed. So here we define the function, but here we are calling the function. But you don't have to worry about how this got printed out, how the function works, because I'm going to explain that later. For now, let's just focus on the conditional block. Let me execute the program again, and this time I'm going to input a pin code that doesn't exist, that is not in the dictionary, 000. And in this case, you see that we got incorrect pin, which is printed out by this function. So this was evaluated to false, therefore we got this printed out. We got this other line printed out. This info can be accessed only by this one here. And then we have this thing in here, which is a for loop, but we're going to cover that later. And yeah, this is about conditionals. In the next lecture, I'm going to tell you something more about conditionals, and then I'm going to explain custom functions, such as this one in here. Talk to you later.